So you said something like when they pray, they face towards the Mecca. What about people staying here that live in different parts of the world that's not Mecca?
The way I understood it is like you like face the general direction of Mecca, like
to the east.
to the east. There you go. So you just faced east to pray.
When I was in Indonesia, they actually had on the ceilings of the hotel room, they would have an arrow that pointed to Mecca. And when I'm laying there in bed, I'm like, what is that thing? Finally, after the whole week of being there, I finally asked what it was, and somebody told me that was so you would know where to face.
Right now, there are actually there are apps in the phone, so they just literally they just have the app on the phone. Just like you have the Bible, they have the app. They'll put it on the floor and they'll face it.
So I know I met a lot of American Muslims who believe that we worship the same God, and I know they might not be as devout, but what do Muslims in general believe about us? Do they believe that we're saved and misguided, or?
I don't know. I haven't really talked to enough people of the faith to get a sound opinion on what they believe of us. I only talked to one person just to kind of get the basic facts, because I was still just in the beginning stages of doing my research, so I don't really have enough knowledge to say what they say about us.
Yes, they would think we're misguided.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. The word Allah is the Arabic name for God, so they probably would not argue with you that we worship the same God. Christians argue that, but the question really to get to is who is Jesus with them. Jesus is found in their Quran. He's mentioned as being born of a virgin, referred to as the Word, like in John 1. He's also referred to as a Messiah, and that they believe he's coming back again. But it's just a different purpose. So, discussion should be more around who is Jesus to kind of show that he's not just a prophet.
So do they believe that we're good enough to be going to heaven because we believe that?
No, because we haven't said the Shahada. The Shahada is if you've heard the sinner's prayer, what we commonly in Protestant churches refer to. We say the sinner's prayer. The Shahada is basically a sinner's prayer, and it's it's just a quote, and then you're supposed to go be baptized, and then you are officially in the Muslim faith.
Isn't that the 2-line thing where it was we believe that there's one God, Muhammad's his prophet?
Yep, that's it. That is it.
There was somewhere that they believe that saying Jesus is God and that there's also a separate God is kind of heresy because you're kind of saying there's two gods.
Right.
So you didn't really go into this, so what set Muhammad apart? So I know Islam is a Abrahamic religion coming from that ancestry, but it was a couple hundred years after even Jesus died on the cross. So what was that history?
Not really specific.
Did you learn anything about the concept of jihad? Because I know that's a commonly Jihad.
I've read about it, but not in depth.
It means suffering. It's a religious, and so a jihad just means you're on a spiritual. You could say a spiritual war, but it's meant to be more of an internal spiritual warfare. You're wrestling with some sin in your life. You're wrestling with, so that's where the struggle takes place. It's the extremists who take it to a war type jihad, and they're trying to bring in the next prophet to come.
Since Muhammad didn't come until 200 years after Jesus, what do they think happened?
600.
600. I'm sorry.
That was Max's fault. Max's fault.
Anyways, what do they believe happened to everybody? Do they believe that everyone before Muhammad wasn't saved, but Jesus was before Muhammad? Was it just Jesus, just Abraham?
I don't know if they would even answer. It's all workspace. So if you were a good person, that's probably all they would say. I've never heard anybody speak of it in the interactions I've had.
Do they do any mission / evangelism efforts at all? I haven't seen it, but I have like gotten in a conversation where somebody was trying to bring me to their side, so.
I don't think so, because I asked about like going to like the Islamic Center or to like their church, and like they said that it wouldn't be allowed for like just an outsider to come in and see it. So I would say probably not.
Yeah, I know at least from a historical perspective, where Christianity was primarily spread through missionary work, Islam was initially spread through war and conquest.
Who was the person you talked to? 'Cause I remember you mentioned them.
Missouri.
She's
my
my
friend.
friend.
She's in
Yeah.
Didn't take game night.
Aside from Shahada, is there anything else that is faith-based, not just works in this religion?
I think it's just like faith in God, like just the God himself, and then the rest is works.
Okay.
Is that like a second question?
Yeah, I was gonna say, how much of this stuff can a Christian do without being like not a Christian?
I don't know. Basically, you couldn't pass the first one because they only
Yeah.
believe in God, and
Mhm.
Christians believe in the Trinity.
Gotcha.
But I've even heard of some Muslims, a friend of mine that went to a country where it was primarily Muslim. He had somebody sit down with him and ask him if he believed in God, and was trying to basically say, "Oh, you just said the right words. Now you're Muslim." And it was like, "Whoa, what?" And he's a Christian, and he did believe in God, but not the way in which they believe. So.
Get your integrity
down. I know with Mormonism there was like an extra like punishment for leaving the religion. Is there like an extra like obviously going to hell is bad enough, I think, but like is there like an extra like level of hell for people that leave?
I didn't really see anything about an extra level. I think it's basically just if you don't do your good works.
Like it's all but like
There is a surah that talks about that if someone leaves, that basically be beheaded or
right.
killed for. Now some of your more moderate Muslims will just say, just like you have verses in the Bible that talk about God telling them to go slaughter people for not worshiping it, we would look at that Bible text and say, well, that was for a time and a place for back then, it's not for today. They would say the same thing. So if you get those texts that the jihadists, the extremists want to use, they'll say the extremists represent less than 10% of all Muslims in the world. They just get the biggest megaphone. And so,
I mean, is there any like
just
eternal
beware.
consequences that you know of?
As far as leaving,
Yeah.
I mean, you're heading to hell. I mean, there's,
Okay.
yeah, you don't get heaven.
I didn't know if it was just like the same. I know like we're at the point where it's like one or the other. Like
I don't think they care if you're comfy or not, like the Mormons. They just yeah.
They believe that God is living and active, or do they see him more as like a judge on a throne and they're just praying to check a box?
I don't. Let me look back at my words, make sure I say that right. Basically, what they say about God is God has no race, no gender, no body, and is unaffected by the characteristics of human life. That's all I read.
So he's distant.
He's very distant, yeah. I don't think it's like a close personal relationship like we have. It's just there.
I'm right here.
Yeah.
So then a prayer then is just more like symbolic, like they're not actually communicating anything through it.
Yes.
Oh. Wow.
Quran means recitation. So the purpose of the Quran is they're supposed to actually memorize the Quran. So, but it's only in Arabic. And so that's one thing you'll learn with a lot of Muslims. They can't even, they might know how to say it, but they don't know what it says. Or they, if they've even memorized one chapter in the Quran would be amazing. But that's usually the biggest problem. They just don't even know what's even written in their holy book.
So it's not translated into English or any other?
You can get an English copy, but it's not allowed. Or it's not true. It's not the true Quran.
It would never be used in their worship.
Oh, yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
No.
So I read a book previously that was about the importance of dreams in Islam, and especially in like that culture And like, did Missouri ever talk about any of that? Just curiosity. No.
Did you study any about Sharia law?
Sharia law?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Just so everybody, you may have heard that term.
Mm-hmm.
That is where it's pretty much the whole government system is Muslim, that they have 100% of the people in that country are Muslim, and so it's actually by law dictated by their belief system. We don't really ever see that within the Christian realm. The United States is probably the closest we've ever seen of following more of a Judeo-Christian structure to create law, but respecting all, where they don't respect anybody but the Muslim religious beliefs. And so when you hear Sharia law, that's by their standards. And that is going to be, you're going to see that it's 99.9% Muslim. I mean, or to 100%. Like, there's not going to be anybody else. It's, they're raised to believe it and follow it. And even to the point of, if you don't, you would possibly be killed. If your family would kill you before they would let you shame them.
Did you read anything about the Sunni and Shia split and those differences there?
I read about it, but there's a lot, so I didn't go into it.
Those are basically denominations.
Yeah.
They're the two largest.
Mm-hmm.
So if you ever have a conversation with a Muslim, they want to bring up, you Christians have all your denominations. Just say, that's the pot calling the kettle black. You know, they have over 50 different sects or denominations. So it's just a variety. They just have different interpretations. One's more political. It might be a difference of end time views. But yeah, Shia is based out of mostly Iran. So if you meet somebody from Iran, they'll be from a Shia background, and then pretty much the rest of the world is Sunni. So Missouri is Sunni.
She did say that.
Do they believe, as a good Muslim, that they can have heaven guaranteed, that they know, like we as believers, because of what Jesus has done for us, can know for sure that we'll spend eternity with Him in heaven? Do good Muslims who follow everything to the T, do they have that same guarantee, or is it all still based upon the mercy of Allah?
I really don't know. I feel like that's something I'd have to ask like an individual Muslim to actually know what their thoughts were on that. That's a good question.
And we have the Brian and whoever the other guy was from the
English.
Yeah, they had a compare and contrast basically conversation a year ago, 2 years ago.
Not a year.
Last year. And basically it was kind of said that like they don't have the guarantee, like that was like blasphemy to assume that you could go to heaven, that like you were going to heaven. That's what.
We will have next week, we will have Emily who will be presenting. And Emily, can you share what you are presenting on?
I would love to. I'm presenting on